Welcome to the Tailoring Talk Show with me, your host, Roberto Revilla. I'm a bespoke tailor, menswear designer, and owner of Roberto Revilla London Suit and Shirt Makers. This is the podcast where you drop in for the threads, but often leave with something quite unexpected. I talk to self-starters and creators about their journeys, the highs and lows, and the lessons they've learned along the way. If you haven't already, please support the show by subscribing. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please help me out by leaving a rating and a review. Today, I'm joined by a master of effective communication. After many years of doing university presentation case competitions, basically professional sports for nerds, that's his words, not mine, he accidentally developed a skill in helping others communicate effectively. He started the YouTube channel MasterTalk, which is a must subscribe. He realised that everything he was teaching wasn't available for free on the internet. He had heard so much advice that didn't make sense, like be yourself, or get up on stage, or better, imagine everyone in their underpants. So he pressed record on his phone, started filming videos on communication in his mum's basement, and now the goal is to help everyone master this essential skill. Tailoring Talkers, please join me in welcoming Brenden Kumarasamy to the Tailoring Talk Show. Brenden, how are you?
Very good, Roberto. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. You sound like you've got a little bit of a sniffle.
Oh, I always do, don't worry.
But you always somehow manage to sound absolutely incredible. Brenden, where in the world are you calling in from today?
I'm based in Montreal.
Oh, awesome. Canada.
Yeah, you got it.
Another Canadian.
Canadian, you got it.
Yeah, exactly. See, I'm talking to the master of communication. I'm screwing up my communication already. Because the last time we had a kind of networking, communication, how to present yourself focused episode was when I had one of your fellow Canadians, Tyler Foley, on a few episodes ago. I don't know if you know Tyler. You know, you two together would be absolute dynamite.
Yeah, I think I've seen Tyler in the circles, but I never met him yet.
Yeah, he's usually like one of the top ranked guests or something, so you can find him easily. How are things going? How's the YouTube channel going? And are you doing more outside of what you do on YouTube? I realize I've just asked you about 4 questions at once.
You're all good, man. So MasterTalk is 3 things, Roberto. One is the media side, which is where I share content that anyone in the world can access. And that could be through the podcast that we're doing right now. The YouTube channel is the main vehicle, I would say, of my free content, and content on LinkedIn. That's one arm. The second arm is coaching. That's where most of my revenue comes from. That helps fund the YouTube channel. As you can see, I'm in my best friend is also an expert in menswear. And that's how we got that suit shop. So it's actually a suit shop, funny.
Oh, awesome.
And yeah. So I'm not, by the way. He's an expert in menswear, so he picks my clothes.
Yeah.
And then I coach executives and entrepreneurs on how to speak really well. That's where most of the money comes from. And then the third arm is workshops. I do corporate workshops at companies. And that's basically the trifecta of MasterTalk right now.
Yeah. And I presume with coaching, you're coaching people across the globe?
Yeah, international, you got it.
Yeah.
Most of my coaching's online.
Yeah. And do you find a difference between different regions of the world in terms of how good or not people are when it comes to the basics of public speaking? So to give you an example, I'm from the UK. I don't know what it's like in the posh private schools, but certainly in state schools, there wasn't really a focus on public speaking of any kind when I was growing up. So as a consequence, everything that I've done up till date, I've had to do on my own. I don't know if this is true or not, but certainly my experience of, say, Americans is that they seem to be put into positions where public speaking is a skill that's taught from a very, very young age. Do you find that it differs across the world as to people's kind of competencies when they first get to you?
For sure, Roberto. I don't think those differences are really massive, but I would say the intricate differences are probably around mindset. So I'll give you an example. A lot of my European clients, they hesitate a lot more when I try and push them out of the comfort zone. Because the things that I do that we're going to talk about today, most people don't want to do. Whereas Americans are very different. They just go, I just want to win. Especially people in New York. So they just go, you tell me to do anything. You want me to do hopscotch? I'll do hopscotch. You want me to, as long as it gets me the result I want. So it's the mentality is different, whereas in other areas of life, there's a lot more cultural barriers to get a job done. So yes, I would say most of my client base, because of that, because I have weird ways of getting the result, are mostly Americans. But yes, I do have some European clients, maybe 15%.
Yeah. So, I always say, I spoke to Tyler first, I think it was about November last year, and it was one of my favorite episodes to record, but also it was one of the most well received. I mean, that was the one that I got so much feedback on. They were like, oh my God, we listened to you with that guy. I'm expecting exactly the same with you, so no pressure, okay? But it coincided with... Previously, I had not done any form of networking. I would always avoid having to do any kind of public speaking, says someone who started a podcast last year. But you know what I mean? Getting up on a podium and having a live audience in front of me is always very, very uncomfortable. But I made a resolution with one of my other regular guests, Atif Ghaffar, that we were going to say yes whenever a networking opportunity or an opportunity to be and speak in public was presented to us. Like, we wouldn't even hesitate. If someone said, can you come and do this? Or would you come and do this? Or would you be yes, yes, yes. Like, the word no has gone out of the vocabulary. So we kind of just kind of threw ourselves in. It's been going okay so far, but I still get now, because I've now put myself out there, I am now starting to be asked by people, would you host a masterclass? Would you do this? Would you do that? Would you come and speak at our thing? And so now I kind of find I'm sort of starting to sort of get a bit of my old self, where I'm sort of starting to retreat back. I'm 100% comfortable behind a microphone doing what we're doing right now. But I know there are a lot of people, I'm sure, that are probably nodding their heads as they're listening to this right now. So how would you take someone like me and put your boot up my butt, basically?
It's a funny way of putting it, Roberto. So you know what I like about Tyler and every other coach is everyone's got their own perspectives of how to coach people, which I think is great because you can learn from so many different perspectives. So here's mine. The one that I always start with, I don't even get to the boot right away. The first thing that I ask people to do is to dream. Because all of us, we dream about our vacations that we want to go on, the businesses we want to start, the money we want to make, the purses that we want to buy, maybe the nice tailored suit, bespoke suits in our case that we want to get. But very rarely do we dream about a world in that we are great communicators in it. So here's a question that none of us probably thought of, Roberto, to start this off. How would your life change if you were an exceptional communicator?
Oh,
so much of right. Oh, go ahead, jump in.
Oh, sorry. No, I was going to say. Sorry, 'cause I'm very interactive. Like, I love role play.
Please,
so sorry. If you're
problem.
ever going to do something that's rhetorical, then just put your hand up or something, and so that I shut up. But to answer your question, since I started, how would my life change? It would change immeasurably for the better. I think I would have so many more opportunities open up.
So since you like interact, because most hosts don't, so I like that you have this approach actually. So be more specific. Think about your business. Think about your family. What ways do you think being on stages would help you in your local city?
So the problem, taking my business as an example, but I know a lot of other entrepreneurs and business owners that I have met and networked with recently have exactly the same problem, is that, we have such an amazing product, service. We're a bit different in the market, but the problem is that we're hiding in shadows all the time. So the problem that we've always had is shining the light on what we do and getting our message out there to tell more people. And in a weird way, by not doing that and making a concerted effort to do it, I think we're actually doing people out there a disservice, because there are people that I could be helping who aren't finding out about me at the moment.
Exactly, right? I mean, you're nailing on the head. By the way, I love your openness, Roberto, because most people don't do that. So this is great. You know, what you just did is exceptional, because most people just sidestep the question. They don't even bother answering it or even thinking about it. But that is already a great piece to start with, because you're right. Your approach is unique. The way that you go about menswear has a unique style. But if you don't communicate that point of view to the world across different mediums, because you're doing it on a podcast, but across different mediums, then we're missing out on great opportunities. And I can pretty much guarantee you, if you're speaking in front of 100 people, 100 men, let's say, who, like to dress well, one of them will become a client. For sure, if you know how to speak. Right? And especially in London, where menswear is extremely competitive, probably one of the most competitive markets in the world for menswear, I would argue, based on my limited knowledge of it, it creates that edge that most people aren't willing to go to. And that's really the key. But the point is, just to expand on this a little bit further, Roberto, everyone who is listening to this podcast right now, for them, the answer is different. We just did a small one for you. But for all of us, communication means different things. It could be their family, improving their relationship with their mother. It could be meeting strangers when they travel, ordering food at a restaurant. Communication is every moment of our life. And once we have that burning motivation, that communication is about leading a more fulfilling life, then we take it more seriously.
Yeah. I think also to answer the question in relation to family, I think a lot of so every relationship has ups and downs, right? My wife and I have been together for 16 years. We've been married for 14 of them. I think if I had been a better communicator, we would have certainly had more ups and downs. I think most problems that we've ever had together or have had to face together have come about as a result of poor communication. Literally,
right? And I love, once again, same thing with me and my mom, by the way. Me and her used to fight all the time. And until I I made a decision, I said, what do I want this relationship to actually look like in the future? And then I call it relationship visioning. So when you write it down, you go, so what changes do I need to make? But to your point, communication affects all areas of life. So to answer the question, how do you get the kick in the boot? Let's simplify this even more. Ask yourself an even simpler question. What do you actually want out of life? And then ask yourself, how does communication play a role in accelerating whatever those goals are? I always like to say that communication is an accelerant of dreams, Roberto. So when you know what that goal is that you want and you tie it in with comms, then you'll implement every other tactic we'll talk about today.
It's really interesting that you talk about dreams and goals, because one of the other things that I started this year is I took on a business coach, because our business is at a transitional kind of phase right now and there's a lot of things happening. I was at an event yesterday with a bunch of other entrepreneurs and High Founders Club members. I was describing, because they were all hadn't seen me for a few weeks, how are things going? And I said, I feel like I'm in the eye of a hurricane. And as that tornado kind of swirls around, I can see everything that I need to do, that could potentially happen, that we could potentially succeed with, and so on and so forth. But it's all just kind of, and I'm trying to reach out and I can't grab anything to hold it down. And it was such a visceral example, because that's what I was visualizing in my mind when people were asking me that question. But they immediately got it and understood it. Sorry, I'm kind of digressing a little bit, but I go back to what I was saying about how you so effectively kind of mentioned goals and vision and so on. So I took on business coaching earlier this year. One of the first things that we had to do was kind of work through our 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year goals, work out what our vision statement is for our business. Now, I actually wrote 2 down, and number 1 was for the business, and the second one was for the type of husband that I want to be.
Love that.
And in that, it was, I want to be da-da-da-da-da, and in order to achieve this, I need to work on, and communication was part of my sort of goal list of things that I need to work on. So it's really interesting that you relate it back to goals and vision, because it sounds really simple now that you've said it, but a lot of us don't really think about it in that way. We think more in terms of, oh my God, I'm putting myself out there. I'm in front of people. People are going to think, what are people going to think of me? Am I coming across well? I don't think I can come across well. This video is not going to be as good as other YouTubers. I've seen Brenden on YouTube and he's absolutely amazing. I'm never going to be as good as him, so I'm not going to do video. I'm not going to give it a shot.
That's so powerful, man. I completely agree, right? And you actually touched upon this so well, Roberto, is the whole idea of communication goal setting. Is a lot of us, and you're actually one of the few people who actually did that, is you don't just have goals for your business, You don't just have goals for your health and your relationships, especially with your significant other. You also mentioned communication goals. Most people don't really think about communication goals. Like, what do you actually want with your communication? Is it to grow your business? Is it to have a better relationship with your family? Is it to speak clearly, like an X number of speaker? When we get more clarity around this, that's where we get the success. That's why I always like to say that the biggest challenge of communication, in my opinion, which is different for most people, is actually not fear. I think the biggest challenge is motivation. Because if you're motivated to make something happen, you'll still have the fear, but you'll beat it every time. But if you're not motivated, you won't have any incentive to push the fear. I mean, I started MasterTalk in my mother's basement when I was 22 with a bachelor's degree in accounting. Like, who was I to start making videos? Right? And those videos are still up there. People can go see like how crappy my videos were when I started. But the reason I posted and pressed record, Roberto, was not for my executive clientele, because I didn't even know executives could even pay you for coaching. The reason I pressed record was for the 15-year-old girl who couldn't afford me. Right. That's why I did it. Because there's nobody else who's 22 is making videos on communication. And that 15-year-old girl isn't going to relate to the 60-year-old dude who's making videos. No. Even if they got 7 PhDs. Mm-hmm. And that's really the point.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the examples I give you from my side are obviously I'm talking about myself because I've been there and, had all of that. And now I'm just kind of, what's the word? Externalizing it.
Of course. So I think it's great, by the way, that you make yourself the own case study because it really helps your audience. Because when they see you go through this, they go, if Roberto could do it, I could do it too. I need to do what he's doing with Brenden.
I think a lot of communication is, as I kind of alluded to earlier, is about perception. We see people on Instagram and social media now and YouTube, and we think, my God, these people are incredible. They must have come out the womb being able to do that. But it's really funny because if you look at, you take anyone, Sunny Lenarduzzi, for example, who's amazing on YouTube. She does a lot of, she's basically now selling her kind of, we can take what you do and package it and then have you sell that as a coaching package kind of thing. But prior to that, her videos were all about helping people with social media and so on. And if you go all the way back to the beginning, to her earliest videos, they were just filmed on a very rudimentary, probably something like an iPhone 5 or 6, probably an iPhone 5 actually, but she was just getting the camera out and she was just doing it and putting it out there. It didn't have all the gloss, it didn't have all of the graphics and the kind of polished sort of finish that she has to her videos nowadays, but the point is that she started. And I'll be honest, me personally, and I know a lot of other people again who are in this position, yeah, I need to do video, but I'm really scared of doing it. And every time I get the video out to start doing it, I'm so worried about how I'm going to come across that I stop recording almost straight away. And then 3-5 years go by and I'm still in that same situation. But from what you're saying, the important thing is to really kind of, start, but maybe even before you start, is to work out what you want to achieve and make that goal. You get so passionate about that you push the fear aside and you do just get on with it and you start putting yourself out there.
Absolutely. And let me add a little bit more on that. Big fan of Sunny's, by the way, for sure. Same here. Is the other piece is we need to start reframing our mind, Roberto. Because a lot of us, when we think of communication, and you nailed it on the head there, we think of it as fear. Oh my God, I have to do this. Versus what communication is for, which is a tool for impact. So now the question becomes, how do we reframe our mind? I'm actually not going to ask anyone to post on social media today. There's actually a step even before that. And the step is simple. Make a list of the people that you love. Not strangers, not people you never met in your life. Just literally people who have made a difference in your life. Significant other. Kids if you have any. Nieces, nephews. Clients. Your first clients when you started the business. The people who really believed in you when no one else knew who you were. Those people. And I have a question. The question is, this is more rhetorical. The question is, when was the last time we sent those people, not strangers, those people, Roberto, a 20-second, not 20 minutes, a 20-second video message just telling them how much we appreciate them? And if we look at that list, will realize very quickly that the answer is zero. Do you want to know how I make most of my money, Roberto? It's very simple. It's not through podcasts, okay? I just do this for fun because I like doing podcasts. How I make money is very simple. It's not the YouTube channel. It's not all these different lead gen strategies. It's sending video messages, wishing my clients a happy holidays who have already bought my service. So if there's 50 videos, I'll send 50 clients, I'll send 50 videos. It'll take me like an hour. And then I'll wake up the next day. 5 of those people will reach back out and go, hey, Brenden, really appreciate you sending me this video. It means really, actually this vice president you got to meet. Boom, I make 10 grand a day. That's what you got to do.
Wow. When I think back to occasions where I've tended to send videos to clients, and what you've talked about is on my to-do list, by the way.
But how long has it been on the to-do list?
A very long time. But I think
there you go.
But I think back to some occasions. So during the pandemic, our business was closed. Eventually we started to kind of do some stuff online, and then I started to reconnect with clients, find out what they were wearing if it wasn't suits, and we started making that stuff for them: polo shirts, shorts, jeans, chinos, whatever. And because I had a lot more time on my hands, because I didn't have the appointments in person to do every single day, I would combine exercise with maybe cycling right the way across the city, 20, 25 miles there, 20, 25 miles back, just to drop a packet off for a customer. But I would do it at like 6:30 in the morning, because that's the time that I like to exercise. I like to get it out of the way at the very beginning of the day. And what I would do is I would then turn up at your door, Brenden, at 6:45 in the morning with the new shirts that you ordered. And then what I would do is I would record a video and I'd say, hey, Brenden, it's 6:45 on Sunday. Thank you so much for supporting us and keeping us going through this horrible pandemic. I hope you guys are all okay. But I'd be whispering because I'm obviously outside and they're all asleep. And I'd be like, it's 6:45. I'm outside your front door. I don't want to wake anyone up. So I'm just going to pop this over your side fence. I really hope you enjoy what we've made. And I look forward to hearing from you soon. And then I would just do a little pan around their front garden and everything. And then I would, okay, bye. And then off, send it. About 2 hours later, when the client's woken up and they've seen my video message, they've absolutely flipped out, sent me a voice message or a text message back. And they were like, oh my God. Like, that was the most freaky, most insane, ridiculous, but most touching, heartwarming, amazing thing that has happened. Thank you so, so much. I can't believe that you did that. And so that is the one thing with video that I have been doing, but I've just realized that obviously that's doing it in exceptional circumstances. But if you can do that to show just gratitude every single day, and like you said, it doesn't need to be a long thing. It doesn't need to be meditated. You don't need to have a production studio set up or anything, or have a nice background. You just kind of, hey, I was just thinking about you. We haven't spoken for a little while, or thank you so much for what you did there, or it's our 10th anniversary. And I was just thinking back to the people who really supported us once we got going, and you came to mind straight away. Thank you so much for supporting me, my family, my entire team. We really appreciate you. And I really hope to get together with you soon. I mean, how awesome is that?
I mean, I think it's great that you did it, Roberto. You didn't even need me to tell you. But the point I want to drive, which is excellent, is the people listening to this podcast didn't do 0 to 1 like you did. Right? They haven't done that first step yet. So let me break down what you understand that the audience is going to learn if they do this exercise.
Yeah.
What you understand now, because when you get the replies, those texts back from your customers, you know it's landing. Even if you're like sweaty and it's 6:45, they're replying to you and they're going, this means so much to me. So your mind is already starting to shift. Right? So I love that you downplay yourself, even if you're implementing everything I'm telling you to do, which is funny. I think that's an interesting style of interviewing. But
you can,
but yeah,
Brenden, by the way, you can set me homework after this, and then when we record again in a few months' time, right, I'll report back. I'm a really good student.
You are actually. You're a very good student. You definitely downplay yourself a lot, which I think is super humble. I love that. Because you're like, yeah, it's on my to-do list, but no, you've done it. You've done it a lot. But the point is learn from Roberto, everyone who's listening. Because when you send videos to people, your initial reaction, the people who haven't done it yet, you might think, oh, what will they think of me? They might say, why did you send me a video? All this stuff. But when you actually send the video, you realize that even something in a van where you look like a gangster and you send them a video, they still love it so much. Why? Because nobody does it. I'm still the only service provider across all my clients who are sending video messages, except maybe one person that I taught to do this to. So that's really the key, is that it makes all of the difference, because that's how you build a business. That's how you build a movement. That's how you build a community. You send a few hundred video messages, you'll have hundreds of raving fans. You never even have to leave the store to get more business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important in social media as well, because when I get people, I get people connecting with me on Instagram and so on all the time, and most of them are Bitcoin and Forex traders for some reason. But when you do get the odd person and you look at it and you're like, oh my God, like, you look awesome. I want to connect with you. I want to follow you. I'm so appreciative that you follow me back. I send them either a voice note or I send them a video, rather than just tapping out a message on Instagram or whatever. And the reactions I get are incredible, because often they're kind of some form of, oh wow, thank you so much for your voice note or your video note. Nobody ever does that. That was awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And then the connection becomes more meaningful.
I completely agree. It's all about taking those steps. That's why I always recommend to not start with social right away, because some people might be at levels 1. That's how I would say, do it with your existing clients. Do that with your existing communities, because those are the people you care about the most. And if you're getting results, whether it's financial or emotional, from those text replies, that's what's really going to push you. I'll give you another one that you probably might be doing. I had one of my CEOs send a video message to all of his employees. All of them. I don't care if it's the janitor or the vice president of the company. All of them. He had like 40 employees. To just wish them a happy holiday. His employees were mind blown. So this is not just about direct financial gain. This is also about retention of the employee.
Yeah.
If you're sending them video messages wishing them a happy holiday or happy birthday, they ain't leaving you. They ain't going to go work for another menswear company. That's for sure. So that's the key.
Yeah, that's pretty easy at the moment, because I just need to send a video message to my wife, and that's that. We are in the process. She was second interviewing
interviews.
Our first our first assistant. We were talking about that before we jumped on the call. So here's another one, Brenden. To stay in shape and to be able to perform with whatever we do in terms of, say, sports, we have to exercise continuously. And if we don't train continuously on a regular basis, then we lose a bit of that fitness, and it takes a bit of a while to get it back. It's the same with business. If we're not continuously doing professional development in terms of reading and so on, we start to get a bit rusty, and then it takes a little while for us to kind of get our sharpness back. I'm starting to learn it's the same with communication skills as well. So if we take this podcast as an example, when I first started, it was, I think some of the early episodes were a little ropey, because I was just finding my way and I wasn't used to this. I think most of us podcasters kind of starting that way, and YouTubers as well. And then I kind of started to hit a groove. And then life got in the way, because the podcast was really a hobby. It was just something else that I just enjoyed doing. But then I didn't post for a few weeks, and I didn't record for a few weeks. And then when I got back into recording again, I felt the standard drop back down. And then it took a while for me to get back up. Now I'm recording probably 2 to 4 times a week. I'm on another podcast as well. And someone actually who was a recent guest, we have just decided that we are going to look at launching our own podcast together. She's a stylist. So we had loads of, I think the two of us play really well off each other, and it could make we could make such great content. But all of a sudden, I'm kind of throwing myself into recording with people, and the main reason why is to keep myself sharp, so that I can keep having these fluid conversations where, I'm not looking at any notes or anything. You and I are just talking to each other. But sometimes when you've been out of practice for a little while, that's so hard. So what can people make sure they're doing? If they're not podcasters, if they're not YouTubers, what can they do to almost kind of create their own training regime around their communication skills and make sure that they're just staying sharp all the time?
Absolutely, Roberto. Excellent. I love how much you're practicing. That's why you're getting better so quickly. So I call this my easy threes. Public speaking is like juggling 18 balls at the same time, Roberto. One of those balls is eye contact, one of them is smiling, one of them is body language, and get really confusing. So how I simmer this down is what are the three easiest balls that we can juggle that will get us immediate results. We already talked about one of those easy threes, which is simply sending video messages to people that you love, and if you're a business owner to clients, or if you're an employee at a company to the people you manage on your team. If you do that, you'll get immediate results and you'll see immediate impact, even if you're the worst speaker in the world, because it means something to them. That's one. And it's private. So there's no need for social media, it's just private messages. That's one. The second of the three easy threes is the random word exercise. So you pick a random word like spouse, like phone, like iPhone, like wall, and you create random presentations out of thin air. And the reason why this exercise is so effective, Roberto, is if you can make sense out of nonsense, you could make sense out of anything. So if you talked about mangoes yesterday, and you go back into your business, life becomes really easy. And last point on this, and then we can go to the third exercise after, is do this with your family. That's the best way to stay accountable to this.
Wow. Wait, can you expand a little bit on the random word thing? So, like, if I gave you a random word, like...
I'll do it. Yeah.
Go on then.
Shoot me one.
Bench.
Okay, bench. So for those who are listening to this podcast, Roberto did not give me the word bench prior to this interview.
Oh, no.
So now I have to... Right, so now I have to use bench and create a random presentation at dinner. So here I go. So it's Sunday morning, Roberto, and I'm sitting on this beautiful bench. And I'm looking at the incredible mountain, the sunrise on that beautiful morning, the kids who are playing in the park, the couple who are just holding hands and enjoying a morning walk, not a morning run, because they don't want to sweat the small stuff. And I can't help but think that the small little bench that I'm sitting on allows me to experience the beauty of my city that I call Montreal. And you know, in life, Roberto, we always tend to go after the big things in life. The big Gucci purses, the amazing cutlery for some people, the restaurants that they want to visit, the vacations that we want to go on. But they forget to sit down on a bench and just enjoy the moment, to enjoy the beautiful things around us. So what bench are you forgetting not to sit on today? Because we let our life overwhelm us, but we don't take that time to just sit on that bench. And it doesn't even have to be a bench. It could be a sofa, it could be a couch, it could be a literature, or even the grass outside of your backyard. But the key is to take a step and to audit the bench in your life and to just sit on it for a moment. So there you go. That's it.
Oh my God, I need a moment. I have water leaking out my eyes. I think it's because I'm sat in the garden recording this with Brenden. But that was so emotional. Oh my God. Like, how... This is a genuine reaction, you lot, okay? And stop laughing. But that was just... I could see... Because you lot can't see Brenden right now. Eventually, later in the year, we'll be videoing these things. But for now, anyway, let me describe to you what happened. So Brenden took my word bench. I could see... And correct me at any point if I'm wrong in what I'm saying, Brenden, okay? I could see Brenden take the word bench, and I think what he was doing is he went straight into the visual part of his brain. And he visualized that bench. And if you imagine those animations where you start with an object and then all of a sudden the color and the other things that form that scene suddenly sprout out in that stop motion video or whatever, I imagine that that's what was going on in Brendan's brain. And he was basically then just describing that. That was then setting him on the path to then link that back at the very end to goals, vision, etc., using the bench as that analogy. Am I right?
I love it. You're absolutely right. But let me make it even easier for all of us. I've done the exercise 3,000 times, Roberto.
Oh, okay.
So for right, to keep it simple. So here's, by the way, you actually nailed a lot of the parts of the formula.
I could almost see you kind of going into like your mind palace.
Correct. You're absolutely right. I did do that. But to keep it simpler for the audience, here's what I always tell my clients. You don't get points for doing the exercise well. You get points for doing the exercise a lot. So anyone who's done the exercise less than 100 times, my advice is always, forget about the framework, do it 100 times. Why? Because the best way to speak to your point, that because you've proved it through the many podcasts that you do every week, is just speak. So don't try and figure out the formula. Just do it 100 times, because it only takes a minute to do it once. In 2 hours, you'll have done it 100 times. And once you get to that point, then you start to get the most important lesson for the random word, which is not doing it well, which is removing the fear of judgment. As kids, if you give a 5-year-old this exercise, they won't even ask you that question. What's the friend? They'll just go, orange is like a fruit. They'll just have fun with it. But we were all 5 years old in our life. But over time, we lose that creativity. So we need to go back to that childlike mentality. Like, I just have fun with the exercise.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that was... as you were doing that, I was also... I mean, as much as I was then sort of... I'm a very visual person, as you now know. And so I was imagining everything that you were describing. I was there. I was sat on a bench with you, kind of watching that couple walk by and all of that kind of stuff. What the hell was I going to say? I can't remember. See, my mind just goes off in different places. No, I can't.
No, take your time. I'll jump in while you're thinking. It's like, even when I was doing the random word exercise, Roberto, I made a lot of stupid mistakes that people didn't even catch listening. Like I said, cutlery. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It should be just... Right?
I know, but you're thinking that's kind of random, but then it didn't really matter, because the thing is, you were creating so much color and texture and environment, and it was just, you were just describing everything so well. And also, it was the cadence of your voice. You weren't just like, okay, there's this bench I'm sitting on in the middle of wherever in front of Lake Montreal, and there's a couple running by. Actually, they're not running, they're walking. And you know what I mean? There was just so much. Oh God, I could feel your vocal cords working. It was beautiful.
I mean, you're 100% right on everything, Roberto. But the reason I don't mention the cadence part, it's not because it's not true, because it is. It's because that's ball number 8. Right? So we can totally talk about that. Absolutely. The best communicators on the planet speak quickly and slowly at the same time. They vary their pace all the time. But for someone who hasn't done the random word exercise 100 times, ball 8 is irrelevant. Right? That's the point that I want to drive. Because you don't get to the way that I do the random word exercise until you pass a very important prism, right? Chasm of the process, or door rather. And the door is simply not caring what everyone else thinks.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's just me enjoying this moment.
Yeah.
I'm having fun with it. And that's really what I want to drive for people is, are you having fun with communication? And the answer for all of us listening to this podcast, except for maybe you and me, is no. No, Brenden. No, Roberto. I'm not having fun with communication. I don't want to post these videos. I want to do these things. And the random word exercise helps us make communication what it is, which is fun.
Brenden, so what I wanted to say was also that while you were doing that, I was thinking, actually, this game's really fun. I'm like a puppy. I was like, I want to play this game. I'm going to play this game more often. I need to now explain this. I need to get this episode edited as quick as possible and get it out there so that Carolina can listen to it, and then she gets the game, and then I want to play the game like every single day, because this is awesome. But it's a bit like learning to ride a bike, right? There's no point worrying about whether you can climb standing out of the saddle, whether you can do all these other things that we do as road cyclists. You actually need to be able to get on the bike and actually ride it without falling off first, and worry about all that stuff later. I like that you're kind of ball number 5, ball number 8, all that kind of thing. Let's just get on the bike, let's just start pedaling, and let's just make sure we can actually stay upright. Once we've got the hang of that, then we start to kind of build the other kind of skills and layer and layer and layer. This is awesome. How do you approach this one? So a lot of people who are self-professed introverts will say they go into a room and there's a whole bunch of other people there, and maybe they know a couple people, so they'll try and make a beeline for them because they know them and avoid everybody else they don't avoid. But inevitably, at some point, the people that they don't know are going to wander over to them, or they're going to get introduced to them, and inevitably that very first question comes. Oh, Brenden, good to meet you. So what do you do? And then they kind of fumble, and it's like, especially if people do things like property, or they're an accountant or a lawyer or something, and to them that's a really boring thing. But to the other person it might not be. You don't know until you tell them. I've spoken to people, Tyler likes to have fun with that when he's in that situation and gets asked that question. Another friend of mine, Simon Alexander Ong, who just published his first book, Energize.
Of course.
Okay, well, so Simon, he likes to play. He plays a game with people when he meets them for the first time. How do you approach that, Brenden? What do you do?
Absolutely. Yeah, Simon's a great guy. Yeah, I would say for me, mine's a bit different because you asked two different questions. So let's address both. You asked about introverts and you asked about how to introduce yourself. So let's go into both. Let's start with introverts, just in general, and then we'll dive into that second specific question. Here's the thing I have with introverts. Most of my clients are obviously introverts, and I'm not. I'm an extrovert, as I like to say. Right? I'm not an extrovert, I'm an extra extrovert.
An extra extrovert. I love that. My goal is to become an extra extrovert.
It's a bit nuts. Maybe it's not the best thing either. But I think what I would say is what I've noticed, what I found funny, is that they're the best speakers in my client base. They're better than extroverts. So why is that? So I would say, right? You're like, huh?
Yeah.
So the reason is three main things that introverts just don't know that they're just better at than most people. And these three things are really hard to learn. The first thing is listening. Because introverts speak less on average, Roberto. Because they speak less on average, they listen more, which means they can adapt their message to their audience more effectively. Whereas me, that's why I like being a guest. I like yapping. I'm not spending enough time listening. So it's harder for me to adapt the message. That's one. Number two is in the context of pausing. Pausing is the most important technique in communication, where you pause to emphasize key points of our message. Well, guess what? Introverts learning how to pause is like a joke because they're already comfortable with silence because they speak less on average. So whenever they're at a bar or they're at a party, they don't speak much, so they just listen. So because of that, when I go, hey, Simon or Jason or anybody, there's a correlation between how you pause and how you speak. They implement it right away. It gets implemented in their game. Me, very difficult. It took years to get pausing right. Why? Because I don't like leaving space in conversation. Right? Like the space right now, that space took me forever. Because when I was at a party, I was like, so what's your favorite color? I'm always trying to fill it up.
It must have been like stretching gum for you.
Yeah, oh my god. Crazy. And then there's the third thing. I'm not even done yet with the strengths. You would think that's it. There's actually one that a lot of people don't know about. Is introverts are actually a lot more accessible than extroverts as communicators. Let me give you an example. Let's say you take somebody that I deeply admire, Gary Vaynerchuk, or the CEO of VaynerMedia, massive social media brand. You either like the guy or you don't. There's no in between.
Yeah, we say he's very Marmite in this country. You either love him or hate him.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know there's a term for that. What is that, Marmar?
Marmite. So Marmite is... Have you never heard of Marmite? Marmite it's a spread. You put it on like your toast. Oh. And it's made from beer hops, like yeast. And it's black. And it's got kind of a slightly sharp taste to it. But people either love it or hate it. So I grew up on it and I absolutely love the stuff. Like I will stick a knife into the jar and I will literally lick the knife. I love it that much. I'll have it on its own. And there are other, like my wife, if I so much as open a jar of crack, she will throw up. Like she's repulsed by it. So it's called Marmite. Google it if you want to, or I can send you a jar. But because of that visceral response, either love or hate, Marmite a few years ago actually took that as their slogan, Marmite, love it or hate it, and all their advertising marketing is based around that.
Oh,
sorry,
that's fast.
Anyway, you were saying.
No, that's cool.
So Vaynerchuk is very Marmite. People either love him or they hate the guy.
Absolutely, and that's why I love doing shows. Because I always learn something from the host, so that's my lesson for the day, which I love. So absolutely. But then you have people like Brene Brown. It is illegal, Roberto, I don't care where you live, to say the following words. I hate Brene Brown. If you say that, you'll go to jail. The FBI will be after you. By the way, I love Brene Brown. I love her work. I think she's fantastic. But the reason I bring that up is because introverts are actually a lot better than they think. So what's the advice? The advice is understand your strengths and triple down on them. Which brings you to the last point. How do you introduce yourself? You don't need to as an introvert. Because as Dale Carnegie explains best, we don't care about people who are interesting. We care more about people who are more interested in other people. So if you're an introvert and somebody comes up to you and says, what do you do? The introvert should always respond, forget about me. Let's talk about you. What are you up to in the world? And just listen.
Yeah, that's what I tend to do. I tend to say, well, I take frustrated people and turn them into doves or whatever. I don't know. I always come up with something clever. But then I immediately switch it around and ask them a question to get them talking. And you have beautifully explained why I am 95% of the time on this side of the podcasting studio and why people like you are on that side of the and a guest all the time. I hate being a guest. I really hate being a guest because I don't like talking about myself. My wife, if she was here, would completely butt in and disagree and say he loves talking about himself. Our first date, he didn't stop talking about himself, but that's just because she's so beautiful and I was so nervous and I just wanted to try and make a good impression. But yeah, you've just hit the nail on the head as to where I love being on this side of the mic as opposed to being on your side. So thank you. That's so profound.
Of course.
So I'm conscious of time because you have to get onto something else. And are you having fun so far?
Oh yeah, we could totally do this.
I really want to do this again, like seriously. And then when I eventually do get to Canada, then I need to see you in person, like because you have so much great energy. I love you so much.
Thank you so much, brother.
So I feel like if we were at university or college together, we'd definitely have been friends. But I'd have been the quiet, introverted one, and you'd have been the one that was just out there, just reeling them in. Anyway, sorry. So I want to take our listeners are here. We went straight into this at the very start. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I just want to find out a little bit more about you before we go and say goodbye and just work out how you got to being so awesome. So what were you like as a child?
Absolutely, man. So my journey started in Montreal. That's where I'm from. So I'm born and raised in that country. And I wasn't the most introverted kid in the world, but I definitely had some social anxiety, Roberto. And the reason was because when I was 5 years old, I got put in a French education system because you need to know how to speak French in my city, or else you can't do well. But I didn't know the language. So my whole life, not only did I struggle with communication, I was presenting a language I didn't know. So that was most of my life. And then the other piece was I have a crooked left arm. A lot of people don't notice that on my social medias. And the reason is because of a surgery I had when I was younger. So I had a big cast on when I was in kindergarten and first grade. And I would walk like this every time I talked to people. Oh, wow. So yeah, nobody wanted to talk to me.
Oh. See, I'd have found you more interesting because of that.
Well, I know that now. But definitely back then.
But back then, yeah, there's no use.
Not when you're 6 years old, though.
Sorry, I'll jump in my DeLorean and, go find you. And actually, that sounds so weird. Okay, forget that.
You're fine.
So obviously, and then where this desire for wanting to communicate well started all the way back then, or did it come a little bit later?
Good follow-up. So the passion for communication definitely came much later in life. This is why I think I take the mission so seriously, because I really think that anyone can be a great speaker. Because I'm the embodiment of a quote I use a lot in my ecosystem by Kevin Durant, which is an NBA, who's a basketball player.
Yeah.
And he says this so well. He says, hard work always beats talent when talent fails to work hard. Right? And I'm someone who did not... Sure, some things were given to me, maybe my voice and things like that. But the work it took to get to my level of communication was a lot, man. Like, this is not my first rodeo doing a podcast, right? I do 10 of these a week, 15 of these a week, right? It's about putting in the work. That's what I'm so passionate about. But how it came to be, it was by accident, actually. When I went to college, Roberto, I did these things called case competitions. Think of it like professional sports for nerds that you alluded to in the introduction.
Yeah.
Right? So while guys like play rugby, I was doing presentations. But the goal of those things wasn't for me to become this communication expert. Remember, I was 19 at the time when I started. Right? It was to get a job in corporate, like an IBM, which is what I did for a few years. But in that process, I accidentally got dangerous at communication coaching because I started helping those kids. Not because I was the best guy there, because the alternative they had was a rock.
Yeah.
And that's why they picked me, and then I learned.
Wow. So, were you quite competitive with these things as well? I mean, there were proper competitions, right? Like a spelling bee, or like we have University Challenge over here.
Oh yeah, I am super competitive. That's how I got to this level
Right.
so quickly.
Okay.
Because I'm only 26, right?
Yeah.
So you need to be crazy a little bit. I always like to call myself, I'm like the Michael Jordan that nobody gives a shit about, in the sense that, Michael was crazy, right? With his teammates. I don't know if you've seen the Last Dance documentary.
No, it's on my watch list.
Absolutely. Take it from somebody who doesn't care about basketball. Like, I don't care about basketball. Like, I don't watch it.
Yeah.
I love the documentary. I think it's exceptional because it goes through his mindset. But I was actually very similar to MJ in my university days. I was a tyrant when I was running my program because I was like coaching all these people and they would go out to win international competitions across the world.
Yeah.
But nobody cares about case competitions because nobody knows what that is. So I got away with it. That's the difference.
Wow. And then you've obviously taken that on leaps and bounds to create Master Talk and this wonderful coaching business. We are definitely going to do this again. Brenden, where can people find you and connect with you online?
Absolutely, bro. First of all, thank you so much for having me, man.
You're so welcome. It's such a pleasure, really, honestly.
Likewise, man. You're awfully kind and generous with your words, man. I really appreciate it, man. So yeah, this is great. So yeah, two easy ways to keep in touch. First one is definitely the YouTube channel. Just go to Master Talk in one word. You'll have access to a ton of free videos on how to speak. And the second way to keep in touch is I do a free training over Zoom every few weeks. It's live, it's interactive, it's about communication. And this is not some boring webinar. I'm on the call, I facilitate it, I'm coaching people on it. It's fun and it's free. So if you want to join that, go to rockstarcommunicator.com and come to the next free training.
Yeah, and I will make sure I have all of those links in the show notes. I just want to tell people that I have been grinning pretty much nonstop through this whole recording session. Brenden is so engaging. He's so wonderful to be in the presence of. And although we are tens of thousands of miles away, or whatever it is, I don't know what it is. It's probably about 4,000 miles between here and Montreal.
Yeah, it's probably 4,000.
Tens of thousands. He's on the moon and I'm down here on Earth. The energy is probably the same as it would be if I was in a room with him, it would just be explosive. But if you want to get some semblance of how I've felt for the last 55 minutes, I'm sure you have anyway, just by listening to this, go to Master Talk on YouTube and subscribe to his channel. And just make that, if not daily, make it a weekly commitment to just sit with him on his videos. Thank you so, so much, really. I hope you've had fun today.
I totally did, Roberto. You're super fun. I love the thing I love the most about you is how super interactive you are. You aren't afraid to answer the question, be messy in the process. Where most people I interview with, they listen to the question, but they don't try and answer. As you're like, yeah, let's do it right now, which I love, man.
Yeah, if you were ever holding like a live TED Talk or a live seminar or training session or something, and I was signed up to it, and you saw my name on the list, it wouldn't take you long to find me, because I would be sat front row and center in front of you, like with my hand up before you even start, because I'm just one of the, even though I'm introverted, but I just like being a really good student, and you are an absolute master of your craft, and it has been a privilege and an honor having you on Tailoring Talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Likewise.
And thank you all so much for joining Brenden and I on this episode. Don't forget that Tailoring Talk is now on Instagram at Tailoring Talk Podcast. And I love feedback, so you can also email the show directly at tailoringtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. You can also click the share button in your player to send the show on to people you know. If you're enjoying Tailoring Talk and feel compelled to throw some change our way and support the show, you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Roberto Revilla. Have a great week, and I will see you on the next one. Hey, Fini.
Boom.
Boom.
Let's do it.